So hello everyone, my name is Mildred. I am your instructor for this course. So this is week 3 of backend development with Python and MySQL. Today we are going to look at how to group data, and then we are also going to look at how to use a select statement within another select statement in a concept we call subquery. Then we're going to just revise through some of the concepts that we have looked at in more details. Okay, so I'm going to be working with a new database today called Classic Models. You can go to the dev.mysql.com/doc/index-order.html to download a list of sample databases. We can get the different databases here to download. So I'm going to be using the Classic database, Classic Models database for our examples, since all of your pre-recorded videos have examples with the Sequila database. So you can have a wide range of examples to learn with. All right. So to group data, like we looked at in the last lesson, we use a clause we call group by, and it is written group by like this. When we want to group data, all we want to do is to collect all of the items that belong to a particular group, or to filter all of the rows in the table and return one row for each group that we find. And let's say, for instance, let's look at this Classic Models database table. We have the customers table, we have the employees table, we have the offices, we have other details, others, payments, product lines, and products. Let's just take a quick look at the columns that these tables hold. So the customers table has the customer number column, the customer name, contact last name, contact first name, the phone number, address line 1, 2, city, state, postal code, country, sales rep, employee number, and the credit limit. We have the employees table, which holds information about the store employees. We have the employee number, the last name and first name, the phone extension number, the email address, the office code, who the person reports to, and the job title of the employee. We have the offices, we have the office code, the city, phone, the address line 1 and 2, the state, country, postal code, and territory. We also have other details, which list all of the order number, product code, quantity ordered, the price for each of them, and the order line number. We have others, which holds the orders made by different customers. We have the order number, order date, required date, ship date, status, comments, and the customer number. We have the payments table that holds the customer number, the check number, the payment date, and the amount that the customer paid. Product lines is a table that holds the different products that they have, the description of the product, and the images of the products. And products has a full detail of the products with columns: product code, product name, product line, product sale, product vendor, product description, quantity in stock, the buy price, and MSRP. So we want to work with all of these tables and the different columns to look at how to group data and also look at subquery. We're also going to look at how to use the different aggregate functions that we have in MySQL to work with this. So let's say that we want to get the total amount of money spent by a customer in this store. So we have the payments table. This payment table gives us the customer number and the payment dates and the amount. Now we can look at the customer number and see that customer with number 103 paid an amount on a particular date. The same customer paid a different amount on a different date, and the same customer paid another amount on a different date. We don't want to just return all of this. We just want to see the total amount that this customer has spent. So we want to group all of the data based on the customer number, since the customer number is the column of interest. How do we write this query? We come here to say we want to select So we decide the columns that we want to select out of this payments table. And let's say we want to select the customer number and the amount that they paid. And we want to group this and get a total amount from this payments table. So we'll say select, and we want to get just the customer number. So we'll select the column names, customer number. Now we want to get the total amount that the customer paid. We want to use the aggregate function sum, and we're going to be summing the amount. So we'll say customer number, sum amount. We can give this an alias to have a nice name as total spent. And we're selecting this from payments. Now, we cannot aggregate this without grouping what we are, all of the customers. So we're going to use a group by clause here, and we're grouping by customer number. So it is select the list of columns you want to select from the table name, group by the column that you want to group by. So we're selecting the sum of the amounts, the customer number. We are giving this sum amount a name so that the column will have a name, total spent. We are selecting this from the payments, and we want to group this by the customer number so that it will calculate the total sum of each customer. So it will take the customer number, group it, and get the total amount from each. And so if all is well, we should get just the customer number and the total spent here. So this is how we group data. So when you want to group, you have to take note of the column that has duplicates. The customer number column is the column with duplicates that has a customer number repeated several times. That customer has paid money several times. We want to get the total number. We group by the customer number, and we are going to use an aggregate function called sum, and we are summing the column called amount in the groups of customer number. Is there any question? Okay, so we're going to look at how we can filter a group's data. So we have this, and let's say we want to get this, but we don't want to get all of the amounts. We have the total spent here as 22,314, 80, 180. Let's say we just want to get the people who spent above 100,000, and we don't want to get any value less than 100,000. So what do we do here? We can use the group by clause like this. I'll copy the same code back. So we select customer number, we get some amount, has total spent from payment, group by customer number. There is a clause that we use to filter a group, which is called having. So we say having. So what do we want it to have? We want to say having total spent greater than 100,000. Okay, so when we want to get the total number of the total amount a customer spent, and we want to just return the customer whose total amount spent is greater than 100,000, we use the group by clause. We group those customers, get the total, and use the having clause to specify a condition for the group's data. And when I click on go, I should have all of the customers whose total spent is greater than 100,000, and a filter of anybody whose total spent is less than 100,000. Anybody with question?
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Can we use the where clause in place of having?
So you can use a where clause, but the structure will not be like this. The syntax is not going to be like this. Because after group by, the next clause that you use for condition has to be the having clause. If you use a where clause here, it's going to fail with a syntax error. There is a, let me show you. So let's say where total spent. And then you have an error here because the syntax is now wrong. Every time we use the where clauses, we have to specify the where clause after the table name, not after a column name like this. So after a column name, we use having. So once you use a group by clause and you want to have a condition for the group, you always use having and not where. Where you filtering without grouping, you use the where clause after the table name. Okay. Okay, so let's look at another topic we call subquery. Now, a subquery is like a select statement within another statement where the nested one is called the inner query and the outer one selects from the results of the inner one. So it's like you say, let me just do a hypothetical thing, like select all from, let's just put table name, where column name in, and then you put another select query here, select column name from table name. So this is the syntax of subquery at its simplest form. You are running a select query here in a pair of parentheses, and you want to run another select query that will select based on what this query returns from the return values of the inner query. You use the in here to say, or you use not in if you want it to not be in something. And the application of this is when you start building your softwares and you get to the backend development. What this will do is, if you want to select a group of people, or you want to run a query to say select all of the first name of people in a particular group, or in a group of people who have paid their fees, or you want to select, or you want to say delete all of the people's record where the people's name are not in the database or in the table of people that have paid. So this is the application of things like that, where we use the select query. So let's try to do one with the data we have here. Let's say we want to select, let's look at the orders table. Okay, we have order status here, and we have customer number here. And let's look at the payments. We have customer number here. So let's say we have this where we want to select the payment amount from the payments table, where the order status in the order table is marked as shipped. So this is one application where subquery will work. So let's try to do it. So we are trying to select the payment amount from the payments table, and we are selecting this from the status of the order table where all the status are marked as shipped. Both of them have the customer number in common, and customer number is what we want to use for this. So we say select. What we are selecting now is the amount and the customer number, that's the column name, and we're selecting this from the payments table. And we say where customer number in, we want to see that this customer number is going to be in the results of the query we are going to run in these parentheses. And the query we want to run here is to select the customer number from the orders table where the order status is shipped. So we're going to write it like this: select customer number from orders, that's the name of the table, where the name of the column is status and is equal to shipped. So what MySQL does is to run the inner query first. It selects all the customer numbers from the orders table where the status is marked as shipped. It saves them in these parentheses. Now it says select the amount, the customer number from the payments table where the customer number is found in the results of this query. So this is what we call a subquery. We use this for data analysis a lot, where we want to get information from across tables and we want all the information to be, the results to be selected from the result of another query and for another query. So you can have different nested inner queries, not just two like this. So this is at the simplest form. When I say go and all is well, we are going to get the amount and the customer number, because that's what we want, from the payments table. And it is selecting this from a filtered list already of orders that are marked as shipped. So when you have a front end where you have fancy looking buttons where you just click and things happen, these are the kind of things that happen under the hood, where you want to look at, okay, what payments have this customer made? The status is shipped. Did they make the money? Did they pay the money? What amount was paid? These are the kind of queries that run under the hood for those buttons to work, and you just get your nice display of data that you find without having to go through writing the code. Okay. Is there any question? So does everybody have a basic understanding of these topics?
Yes.
Okay. So we've talked about aggregate functions, and we've been using some of them, like when we use the sum of the amounts. These are aggregate functions in MySQL. Let's just review them and see the aggregate functions that we have and how we can use them. We've used the count statement before. And when we say count, we just want to count the number, just like the frequency. When we say sum, we're adding the total. In MySQL, we have this called like count, where you just count the total number of something. So it returns the total number. We did that last week. You can refer to your last week's live recorded lesson, where we wanted to count the number of films acted by a particular actor. Where we use count and the column name here. When we use sum, we just did that now. We want to get a total of a particular column based on a condition. When we use average like this, we want to get the average. I don't think we've had any example that uses average, so let's just try to use average. So let's say on this payment table, let's say we want to get the average amount paid. So we can come here and say select. So say select, and then we use the function average, and in a pair of parentheses, we put the name of the column, which is amount. So select average amount, and we can just give it a fancy column name as average from payments. And when we run this, we should get the average amount paid from the payments table. If we want to get the minimum amount, we can use the min function like this. So we say select, let's say min in a pair of parentheses, amount from payment. And then when we say go, it gives us the minimum amount paid. The same thing with maximum amount, we just change the min to max like this. Sorry. Select max amount from payment, and you get the maximum amount paid. So these are the aggregate functions that will come in handy as we go along, and that you will want to know how to use while you practice. So you can download the different databases and just explore across databases to have a wide range of examples that you can work with. You go to the MySQL official site, and you'll see a list of different databases that you can download from here to work with or to practice with. Let's also look at filtering. We have done this in week 2, but I don't think we went in depth. So let's just look at how to use other aggregates in MySQL to filter data. Let's say in this payments table, we want to get all of the amounts that are between 500 and 2000. We don't want everything, but we want a range between 500 and 2000. In MySQL, we're going to write this as like saying select all from payments. Let's say select all from payments where amount between, so between is the keyword we're using, 500 and 2000. So remember that the syntax is select column names from table name where column name between the figure you want it to be between. So we'll say 500 and 2000. And when I say go, we will have just the amounts that are between 500 and 2000, nothing less than 500, nothing more than 2000 in these returned values. We also have something else to filter, the like operator. And when we use like, we use it to match a pattern based on wildcard that we use. Let's say, for instance, let's use the customers table, for instance. This will be easier to use. Let's say we want to get all of the customers whose name starts with an A, or we want to get a customer whose last name starts with a sequence of characters, maybe the CO, things like that. There is an operator called like operator that we use in MySQL. So let's say we want to first of all get all the customers whose name starts with A. So we say select all from customers where customer name is the name of the column. So where customer name, like, and then in a pair of quotes, we put the A, and then we put a % behind it. So this syntax, we want all of the customer name that starts with an A. Okay? So you write it like in a pair of quotes, you put what you want it to start with and end it with a %. And so we only get customer that the name starts with A in our return value. Let's say we want to get all of the customer whose name ends with CO, like we say this. So I'll run another query. And when you want to do ends with, you will put the % first, and then you put what you want it to end with. CO is what we said. And when I say go, it is only going to give us all of them that has the CO ending their names like that. But what you want to look for, what if you want to look for a string of characters between the name in any position? Let's say we want to look for names that have, let's say for instance, network, because I can see 2 network here, networks within the name. We are going to write it like this. We say select all from customer where customer name, like, and this time we are going to put the % in front, network, and the % behind. So when you want to look for it in any position, you use the % sign in front and behind, and between the 2%, you want to put the string of characters that you're looking for in that column. And so we have all of the customer name that has a network as part of their names. So this will also come in handy when you develop your software and you're looking for a particular name. You don't know exactly what they will name it as, but you're looking for a particular keyword within whatever sentence, or you are building an educational site. There are keywords you're looking for in the student's answer from the examination. You want to have an auto grader, you use this to say if it has this keyword within their sentence, no matter how they make the sentence, just mark it as correct. So these are the kind of stuff that you use in those kind of systems. Okay. When we use the like operator, we also have something like the underscore. Let's say we want the customer name that has letter A in the second position. So it doesn't start with A, but the second letter is A. We have this wildcard we use that is an underscore. Select all from customer where customer name, like, and then in a pair of quotes, we use the underscore, and then we say A and the percent sign. So this will just mean that we want to find A in the second position of the customer name. It doesn't start with A, but the second letter is an A. So this is what we do. And we get everybody whose second letter of their name has an A in it. So this is what the operators we use, and that will come in handy as we work. I wanted to explore more and research them and keep practicing. You can only understand this by practicing more and more. And I don't know if anyone has any question before we end the class. Okay, in the absence of questions, the recordings will be available by tomorrow, later tonight or tomorrow for the latest, and have a very good weekend. And see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.